Hi, thanks for joining me today. It's Geraldine from the Paper Puffin Studio, and today I'm going to show you how to make this simple card. This one uses a paper piecing method called Strippy Scrappy or a quilting card, and you use pieces of designer series paper that you have in your stash, and it allows them all to be displayed in a quilting type of pattern. I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Now let's get started. Let's begin by reviewing all of the pieces you're going to need to build this card. You'll need a piece of your base color measuring 4 1/4 inches by 11 inches. Another piece of your base color measuring 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. And then another piece that measures 1 1/4 by 5 1/4. You'll need some white cardstock. This piece measures 4 inches by 5 1/4, and this one is 1 inch by 5 1/4. For the designer series paper, you're going to need one strip measuring 3/4 of an inch by 4 inches, an assortment of designer series papers, each measuring 1 inch by 6 inches, or 1 inch by 3 inches, and any range in between 3 inches long to 6 inches long. I've got some white paper that I'm going to use to stamp my images on, as well as some additional green paper which corresponds to these colors, and I'll be using this to act as a mat on the front. To score this paper, I'm taking the longest edge, which is the 11-inch edge. It will go across the top, and I'm going to be scoring this down the middle at 5 1/2 inches. My card is going to open in this direction. Now to prep the inside of the card, I'm taking the white piece of cardstock and the smallest strip of designer series paper, which was again measured 3/4 by 4. I'm going to be gluing it in place right along the edge, and then I'm going to glue this piece on the inside of the card. I'll go ahead and do that, and we'll pick up there. Now that we have the inside of the card ready, I'm going to go ahead and prepare the front panel. To do that, I need to take this piece of cardstock, and I'm going to be using these strips and gluing these to the front. I'm going to start by taking this piece, and I'm going to line it up so that it's on a diagonal. I want to make sure that I have enough paper to hang over the edges, and you just position it however it is that you choose to glue it in place. I'm going to be gluing this in place, and then I'll take another strip and I'll put some glue on that, and I'll be lining it up right beside the first piece, leaving myself about 1/8 of an inch of a border around the edge. Now as I do this, I put a silicone sheet underneath. I want to do that so that I don't get glue all over my surface. Now I've got that yellow panel that I cut out earlier, and I've glued one of my strips in place already. I put this on a diagonal, and I'm just trying to make sure that the paper goes right to the edge. I'll be trimming this piece off and this piece off later, but I'm going to go ahead and position all the pieces first. So to show you what I'm doing, I'm going to be putting glue on the back of this strip. I can either use Tombow glue or the snail glue, whichever you like. And I'm going to be laying it next to this piece with about 1/8 of an inch peeking out from behind as a border. I then will take another piece of the designer series paper, place some glue on the back, and line it up here. Each time I'm lining up the paper to put it in place, I'm just trying to have about 1/8 of an inch around the border. Now these pieces I'm going to place in this direction. But then when I start to turn in the other direction, you'll see the pattern starting to show up. So this piece would get glued here. and maybe this piece would get glued over here. You can choose to line up the exact same piece if you like, or not. It really is up to you. Then I would take this piece and place it maybe here. So you're placing glue behind all of these strips, and you'll see all these pieces hang out over the edge, which we will trim off after. I'll go ahead and glue all these in place and pick up there. Now I have all of the strips glued in place, and I'm going to just flip it over and use my scissors to trim off any of these excess strips of paper, just like this. I'll go ahead and trim off all of this, and we'll pick up there. So now that I've trimmed off all of the excess pieces of Designer Series paper, I'm going to be trimming down this piece of paper, which we purposefully cut a little larger than we needed earlier. That was so that we could trim it up and make it nice and neat. You'll see that over here in this corner I have a tiny little piece that is missing, so I'll probably trim that off. If it happens that you have a bit of a bigger piece missing, go ahead and glue a little tiny piece in there and it will all work out. So I'm going to be trimming this down now to 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So I'm going to place it in my trimmer like this, line it up at 4 and trim it. And then turn it and trim it at 5 1/4. And then I'll have it exactly how I want it to appear on the front of the card. Now I'm ready to assemble the front of the card. So I went ahead and using the lemon zest bundle, I stamped the lemons and the leaves, and I've gone ahead and punched those out using the corresponding punch. I also cut out a stitched circle die and a corresponding scalloped circle that came from the layering circles dies that I'll place this white one on top of. I've got this panel now to go on the front of the card, so I'll be gluing that in place right here like this. I will then assemble all of these pieces and pick up there. I've glued the stitched circle to the scalloped circle. I used some glue then to attach this lemon to that base as well as these leaves. And then to attach the last lemon, I used these pop-up dimensionals. Now this is ready, and now I want to get these 2 strips prepared. So to do this, I'm going to be placing this circle onto the white strip, and I want to have Happy Birthday stamped here. So I'll go ahead and stamp the Happy Birthday sentiment before I attach this to the white piece. And then this white piece will get attached to the background yellow piece. And then all of this will get glued to the front of the card. I'll go ahead and do that and show you the finished card. So here we have the finished card. You can see that the Happy Birthday is stamped in place. I put a little embellishment here and then attach this piece to the front. On the inside, I decided to, in the theme of the citrus, go with Happy Birthday to my main squeeze. I made another version of this card as well, and here it is. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.